is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee on the 30th of June. It's a Sunday, first day of the week, 9:49 in the morning, and we're getting a break in the weather today. Thank you for the prayers. Please keep it up. 92 degrees is the high, and that's nice. Allows me to go sit outside without roasting after the broadcast and unwind, and I like that. So please keep the prayers up for cooler weather in my area. Okay, today what we're going to cover is a combination of current events and Bible prophecy. In other words, fitting the current events into Bible prophecy, or in other words, watching how the Bible prophecy is likely going to be fulfilled. Now, the complete, total, 100% perfect fulfillment of Bible prophecy is normally going to come as a result of hindsight. It's over. But we can predict it pretty good. We might not get all the twists and turns right, and we still got a little ways to go, very little. But I'm going to show you how it's coming together. With Russia getting involved in the Lebanon war, as they stated publicly, the American warships approaching Lebanon to, so to speak, evacuate civilians that are Americans. Why can't these civilians just go to the airport now and leave? I don't understand. But anyway, we're going to talk about China and what's going on with the sleeper agents in America, which appears to be shocking. I mean, you will get shocked on this one. And it'll make sense to you. It's not going to be, oh, that can't be. It's going to be, oh, gosh, why didn't I think of that? That's what it's going to be when you hear it. And the overall picture of this whole thing in the Middle East, October 7th forward, is designed to get rid of Iran by America. And we're going to delve into that and why they want to get rid of Iran, what the implications are if they don't get rid of Iran. And I'm going to jump into the chat real quick and check for sound and picture, put a couple of posts up while we wait for the chat to get populated. Okay. Put a couple of posts up while we wait for the chat to get populated. Well, we got sound and picture. And now I'm going to spend a brief moment or two putting some posts up in the chat, and I assure you this will be quick. So don't leave. You're going to have a lot of good intel, a lot of insights as to what's going on. We're going to talk about the Golan Heights in Syria. We're going to talk about now Israel wants to push the so-called dead zone 10 miles away from the border. You're going to get a lot of intel that I doubt you're getting elsewhere. It's possible, but I'm going to condense it. And what I am going to do that I'm quite certain you'll never get elsewhere is tying it to Bible prophecy. That's the big thing. I'm here to teach the Bible prophecies pertaining to Israel and, of course, related events with the other nations as it pertains to Israel. I think I just answered your question, what the channel pertains to. Bible prophecies as they relate to Israel and nations that would be affecting it. Okay, I'm almost done, guys. Now, I'm going to put up my email address. You can email in prayer requests. You could email in Bible study requests, and I try to cover those. And if you do prayer requests, you could also do them in the chat. But the best thing is to give the two initials for the person or persons you want the prayer for, so we, keep privacy. Okay. just about done. It's probably going to be a reasonably full chat today. Another second or two, or 3 or 4, and I'll be finished. Okay, I'm done. Now, being a Bible-believing site, some people might leave now because they just want intel from Israel. But it is a Bible-believing site, so I'm going to do some praise. And if you join in or don't join in, that's entirely up to you. I have no control on that one way or the other. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, the most shocking news I got about America today is this. It's slowly starting to leak out. I can't say it's 100% confirmed, but I think it is, and you'll realize when I tell you, you'll agree. As we have talked about over the past few weeks, the Chinese have purchased 350,000 to 850,000 acres of land in America. Much of this is located next to major American military bases. I've put maps up in the past, okay? The reason for the discrepancy in the amount of land is because a lot of these purchases are done through shell corporations, and it's not entirely clear who owns it, but rest assured, much of this is next door to American military bases. The sleeper agents, as they're called, the people who cross the border illegally into America, and then some file for asylum, and now we're told many do not even bother filing for asylum. They just get transported directly to, let's call them, these bases, the Chinese-owned land next to the American bases, and they go directly there. And they stay there. They probably train, sit in the classroom and get courses taught about what's going to happen and stuff like that. So what's coming out is that these bases that is on the Chinese land next to the American military bases, it's been going on for some time, years. They've dug tunnels from the Chinese-owned land under the American military bases, and they're saying that they've connected these tunnels to tunnels and underground facilities or bunkers in the American military bases. Now, here I have to pose this to you. I don't see how they could break into an American tunnel with pickaxes and all the debris and leave a hole or put a strange door up or something like that, and the Americans wouldn't know about it. That sounds pretty unlikely unless these tunnels are never used. But it appears that the Americans found out about it and know about it. That's the source of the information as I picked it up. And there's also underground facilities or bunkers that they've gone into. Now, in my opinion, if they were dumb enough to actually break the walls down and enter into the tunnels and the underground facilities, then the Americans would realize it. So that may have happened. They could have been that stupid. But they might have gone within 6 inches of the tunnel or the underground facility and stopped the digging. So that means in a matter of minutes they could break in. Now, how the Americans would pick it up is, well, we learned this in Israel. These tunnel digging operations make quite a lot of noise and vibrations. So the Americans probably felt it. And then they started investigating what's going on. And they may have realized that these tunnels are not breaking into their tunnels and their facilities, but they're next door. They could have gone down there and started listening and, putting seismic equipment in there and stuff like that, and they would pick it up. What the Americans are going to do about this remains to be seen. Are they dumb enough to do nothing? I doubt it. What would they do? Well, the tunnel would be on American land. They would probably close up the Chinese tunnel using those foam bombs that Israel has that put it's kind of a substance that expands and it gets very hard, and they could close the tunnel that way. They could blow the tunnel up. They could put reinforced heavy steel doors on their side of the tunnel, or they could do nothing and just wait for them to come in and ambush them. Or who knows? So I imagine for many months the FBI and military intelligence and other agencies, Homeland Security and so forth, have been working avidly to try to gain all the intel they can on these illegals staying on Chinese land. But due to the idiocy of Biden, they're not picking these people up and throwing them out of the country, which Trump would do. Trump would descend on these Chinese-occupied pieces of land with thousands of troops, planes, helicopters, tanks, armored personnel carriers, round them up and get them out of the United States. But Trump's not in office. A reasonable president would do the same. They haven't done that. We'd know about it. Big time. So the way this would play out if the Chinese and the terrorists have their way is to conduct mortar and immature missile attacks, Katyusha type things, shoulder-fired RPGs, shoulder-fired anti-tank weapons and stuff from the land next to the base to cause the American soldiers to seek shelter underground, and then they would be trapped, and then they come in, and they would probably use poisonous gas in the tunnels, chlorine gas most likely, to kill them. So they really wouldn't need to send thousands of them through the tunnel, and they would be getting machine gunned as they came through. They would just probably fire a lot of chlorine gas, grenades or mortars or little missiles into the tunnel, wearing gas masks, and it would kill a lot of the soldiers, I expect. So the tunnel opening might just be very small, and they could have covered it back up. I don't know what exactly happened, but I think it's a safe assumption by now the Americans have figured out something. Now, the smartest thing for the Americans to do would be to set a counter trap for these terrorists. But, now we're playing, spy against spy, and I don't know what will happen. Okay, why do I think this is likely true? Because Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, Iran, Iran-backed militias in Iraq and Syria all use tunnels and underground bunkers. And China, we've found Chinese soldiers in Gaza quite often, training and helping the Hamas. So they know all about tunnels, let's not kid ourselves. So, for those reasons, I would say this is extremely possible. I don't have it in my mind confirmed 100%, but I'm pretty sure it's real. Okay? So that makes the threat way more threatening. If Biden were to deal with this correctly like Trump would and kick out hundreds of thousands of these with major military operations, it would kill him at the polls. Why? They would say, Biden, you moron, you opened the borders, look what you did to us. Yeah, but I corrected it. Yeah, but you're still a moron. You did it to get these people voting, you know, that kind of thing. So Biden is not likely to do a big public ousting of these agents, which is a real problem, of course. I put a website up, a posting from a website yesterday on my Telegram that comes from a source that sometimes has good intel and other times does not, but acts like it's good intel. First rule you gotta kind of understand is people that say they get information from intelligence operatives in the United States from various intelligence organizations is more than likely untrue. Okay, because the penalties for them to reveal such information are very, very harsh, and I mean they could probably get shot by a military firing squad, although that would be unlikely. But it would probably result in their firing, you know. But the other side of the coin is if they were going to release it, they wouldn't release it to somebody that's going to publish it. Now, they might release it to somebody that's a retired military intelligence operative or something like that. Many years ago, talking 40, 45 years ago, the major corporations started hiring retired intelligence operatives from the CIA. I was involved working with a security company in San Francisco, and we approached I don't remember, we got invited, I think, or something, and it was a security guy from a very big multi-billion-dollar corporation, huge company, okay? And I think their headquarters were in San Francisco, or at least it was a major office, something like that. So he talked openly to us. He was retired CIA, and he told us that he put himself in the personnel department so as to conceal his presence. And he said the major corporations are hiring retired intelligence agents to advise them. In other words, get intel from the guys that were still working at the intelligence agency like CIA. So there's also a DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency. There's also military intelligence, and you have quite a few of them. Not that many, but they do exist. So they were hiring these people, giving them generous salaries and benefits. And the purpose was that this guy could contact the friends he had at the CIA or the other intelligence agencies and ask them what's going on. And they know that he would filter the information so as not to reveal sources or anything really classified. And he would be able to advise the board of directors as to what's happening, and they could make plans as to what they think about the company responding or not responding to the information. Now, most of these guys are useless after 2 to 3 years because their friends retire. And the new generation gets promoted and they don't really know these people. Now, it's entirely possible that some might hang on for 5 years, but most of the time it's 2, maybe 3 years, and then they're useless and they want to get another guy in. that just retired so they could keep the system going. Now, does that mean they get rid of the guy they already had? Nah, they'd probably keep him around as an administrator. They got tons of money. Yeah, I mean, in today's salary, what would they pay a guy like that? Oh, 150, 200,000, something like that, depending how high up he was in the CIA. If he was some agency chief, or he might get more. This kind of thing. So, information does get out, but it doesn't get out the way these characters tell you. Anybody that has access to this information is not going to go give it to someone who's going to broadcast it all over the internet. What would happen if it was real intel and secure intel is most likely the FBI would descend on the guy that published it on social media or in Google, and it would be extremely rough on him fairly immediately, and he would be persuaded to reveal his source, and that would be the end of it as far as the guy posting it was concerned. Just don't ever do it again. And they would go after the source, and the source would have a lot of trouble. So the guys that have this intel know it, and they're not about to give it to somebody to broadcast, but they do give it to people that are friends of theirs that are retired, like a former general, okay? Somebody that was a deputy secretary of state. They got a lot of these deputy secretary of states under the secretary of state. Something like that, where the guy had a security clearance and they knew him and they worked with him. They'd give him some idea what's going on, knowing that he would filter the information if he passed it on. So yes, it does get out. Okay? Like in this case, it could have got out because, there was no indication how they knew about it. There was no indication about where exactly it was. There was no indication about what they intend to do about it. It was just, hey, this happened. So yeah, that kind of stuff does occur. Okay, but the people that broadcast, I get intel from the agencies, and they don't do that. They're not gonna get into that. Okay, and the people that have the intel are definitely not gonna hand it over to some guy that's gonna jump on the internet and broadcast it. Cause blowback for them. Hold on a second, someone sent an email. They might have a prayer request. Let me take a quick look. I don't think they were asking anything. I don't want to spend a lot of time reading it. It's a lengthy letter. I'll do it later. I do want to, state that I'm reasonably well aware of those of you that give, the offerings, okay? The names ring bells. Okay. So I think we covered that. Now, next, I want to talk about what I did the other day, the reverse rapture. The Lord was, gently but firmly telling me, no, the people that are, in these churches violating Galatians 5:19-21 aren't going to make it, okay? And for me to state to you that some of them might make it would be meaning that the Word of God is not going to come to pass, and it will. Okay? So that's going to happen. Okay? Now, we could speculate if somebody got saved Wednesday last week and showed up at a church and left and didn't go back, would it mean them? No. Would it apply to us that I don't think it is, because they're not in the system. They visited and they left, and that's the end of it. They keep going back, then they're in the system. Then they're doing it. But what would happen to them just for visiting a church and then never going back? A lot of nothing, really. They would be giving place to the devil, and then when they stop going, that's it. Now, those of you that left the church, I would suggest you repent officially, like ask the Lord to forgive you for ever attending these churches in the name of B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, just to make sure that's covered up. Can't hurt it, right? Most of you probably already did. Now, if you listen to their teachings, are you still in the church? No. You're not. You're not supporting variance. You're not supporting divisions. You're not in, bad fellowship. Come out from among them, touch not the unclean thing. But if you start absorbing their teachings and spreading them around to other people, now you're spreading a false gospel. It's not good. But be careful with that one, okay? If you just turn on YouTube or TikTok and listen to them, does that mean you're in sin? No, a lot of them have decent news, and no, it's not the best thing to do, but why are you doing it? But if you got to be careful about, like the people in church run around, any day now we're going to fly away. This is really wrong. They're teaching doctrine of demons. They're blown about by every wind of doctrine. So don't think these people are going to get delivered out of it, because it would break Galatians 5:19-21, especially on the seditions, which is divisions, which is denominations. So we got 2 billion people caught up in this, with the Catholics, Pentecostals, evangelicals, nominal Christians, etc. It's about 1 billion Catholics and 1 billion of the others that are all running around operating incorrectly, in incorrect fellowship, spreading incorrect doctrines for most of them. So don't think they're going to get spared out of Galatians 5:19-21. Now, this, of course, is not the unforgivable sin, so they can repent and confess the sin and be delivered out of it for sure. Okay? Could happen. All right? Next. Do the people that are serving Satan, that are false believers, like pastors and denomination heads and people that write books and make DVDs and speak in the churches, do they really believe that the beast is about to emerge from the pit and the tribulation's going to start, where they can cut the heads off the people who don't take the mark, and if they take the mark, they're going to the lake of fire and stuff like that? Yeah, I think probably some of them do. I don't know. But it's likely, because they think they're exempt from sins. In the scripture it says, your covenant with death and hell shall be annulled. They don't have a real one, because God's in control of that, but they think they do. See, they think when the devil, through the rabbis, through the Romans, etc., got Yeshua killed, that they killed God. Some of them believe this, because Yeshua says, me and my Father are one. So they misinterpret it to believe, or they're taught by the demons to believe that Yeshua was Jehovah. Of course, that's absurd. He prayed to Jehovah and so forth, and then we see him seated at the right hand of Jehovah. So that's a complete absurd doctrine. But they may believe that. Okay, so therefore the scriptures have no applicability anymore. So they're comfortable talking about prophecies in the Bible because they don't think they'll ever come to pass. But I would say now they're pretty worried. But the demons shore them up. The demons don't want them running away to Jehovah. So they shore them up and they comfort them. And probably the demons tell them that all these things going on in the world is their doing, not God. And who knows? You know. So it's likely that they might believe something like that. I don't know. Okay? So just in passing, I thought I would throw that out there. All right? So what we need to next cover is America sent 2 amphibious landing ships over to the East Mediterranean. And I think there's a 3rd ship with them. These ships generally carry about 1,500 Expeditionary Force Marines. If I got the right ships, and they have they're like a small aircraft carrier. They have a flight deck. They carry a bunch of helicopters, attack included, and vertical takeoff jets, which F-35s can take off vertically. And I think the amount of jets is maybe 12 or 8 or something, not a lot. Inside the boat, they can carry a amount of tanks, armored personnel carriers, Humvees, mobile artillery, rocket launcher pods, and all kinds of stuff like that. So they can, I believe they go up to land, they drop the front of the boat down, and they drive the vehicles out, they march out. So I believe we have 2 such ships, which is equates to about 3,000 Expedition Force Marines, which are not recon Marines, but they're trained for this type of activity. So they're not regular Marines, but they're not as sophisticated as, say, the recon Marines. But the recon Marines are not trained to, go into battle like that. They do reconnaissance. So they'll be put in a place in a small group, maybe 4, 6, 8, and they're very stealthy, and they'll creep around in the enemy country trying to locate intelligence information for their army. But they don't do attacks. Now they might send GPS coordinates back to course artillery and missile and bomb strikes. But I knew a guy that was in one of these units in Iraq or Afghanistan, I forget where. And he did about 13 months or so in the sandbox over there. And he told me that if we get spotted, we're dead. So they conceal their garbage with them, like food wrappers and things like that. And they take great pains to not be seen. Now, there's a chance they could get an extraction if they get seen. It just depends on circumstances. But, they're crack troops. They could fight great, but that's not their job. So if they get attacked by 250 American soldiers, or they come at them with armor or helicopters, they're going to die. You know, the Americans might extract them because they don't want them getting captured with their weapons and their intel. So they might do an extraction. It just all depends on circumstances. So this guy got out of recon range, and he wouldn't go back. He wound up taking a job as a security guard for $8 an hour. This is a long time ago. And he was barely, eking out a living. And so he went back to the recruiter and said, hey, I just got out a few months ago. I think it was less than 6 months. So the recruiter said, yeah, we could take you right back in. He said, but within 30 days, you're going to be back in the sandbox. And he was so afraid to do that, he wouldn't do it. These are not good jobs, okay? A lot of people in the military don't see the point of joining these elite special forces, like Navy SEALs, Recon Marines, and so forth, because they spend a lot of their time sleeping outdoors, which is not all that comfortable, running operations and marches in horrible weather, heavy rain, snow, cold, heat, bugs, snakes, all kinds of risks like that. Eating K rations for many days at a time. And, they don't like that. They don't want it. It doesn't mean they're lousy soldiers. They'd just rather be a regular soldier. So what they attract is very often, most of the time, people that are young guys, because they don't want anybody maybe over 25 or so. Usually when they hit 30 to 35, someplace in there, they're not really any good to put out in the field too much anymore, because their physical ability starts to, they age. While they could still run, and they could do this and do that, they don't recover from injuries like they used to when they're 22. They, can't go that many days without food and water anymore. They wear down. Plus, they get older and they get smarter. So these are usually young guys that got nothing going for themselves. They got out of the high school. They don't consider themselves college material. So they join the SEALs or Recon Marines or something, and now all of a sudden they got a lot of respect, honor in the military. People look up to them. They get all kinds of pay benefits, so they're making good money. They make rank extremely quickly, really quick. And they get a lot of tremendous training. The training doesn't do them a lot of good unless they want to get out and work for a drug cartel or something. If they do 2 tours of duty, they can get jobs with the mercenary companies and make very good money. They usually will get over $100,000 a year. They might get, for someone that did 2 tours as a Recon Marine or a Navy SEAL or a Green Beret or something, they might get $150,000, $200,000 a year. And this is basically tax-free because it's earned overseas. So if they can work as a mercenary for 2 or 3 years and live through it, they could come home have a house paid off, a car paid off, furniture paid off, money in the bank, you know. If you have all your house paid off, your furniture paid off, a couple of cars paid off, life becomes much easier. Much easier. You know, once you have the house, you have the house. Admittedly, you got to replace the cars every so many years, but you can finance those. So life becomes easier. So these people had nothing going for themselves. And they just about kill themselves to pass into the recon Marines and Navy SEALs and so forth. And that's why they go through Hell Week and they can make it. The Navy wants these Navy SEALs to want to be a Navy SEAL more than anything else. How much good being in such crackerjack physical shape does in their day-to-day operations is minimal. You know, if the Navy SEALs are in trouble and they try to run away, I mean, they're not going to make it. There's vehicles, aircraft, you know. But, you see, Israel doesn't pick special forces based on that. They don't care about how many push-ups and sit-ups they can do and how quick they can climb ropes and run with a 40-pound backpack or an 80-pound pack. You know, if they can do a 3-mile run in 24 minutes or something like that, they're happy. You know, do a reasonable amount of push-ups and sit-ups and stuff like that. They're not looking for that kind of skill set of people that are willing to endanger their health to get into the unit. That doesn't help the unit, as Israel sees it. They want people that are in reasonable, decent physical condition, okay? But they want them to be able to multitask under extreme stress and not panic or choke up. And they want intelligence. So that's what they're looking for. The Americans are looking for physical fitness specimens. And that's not necessarily the best thing. But if you want a dedicated force of people that know how to shoot, operate weapons of a complicated nature, are willing to risk their life over and over and over again to collect intel and things like that, well, that's what they got. Israel would consider this kind of person dangerous. Okay? America selects its pilots. The first thing is they want an education because you got to understand physics and stuff. So most of the pilots have an education, but I don't think all of them do. But they could send them to pilot school. And they want a lot of physical attributes, where Israel wants, you know, it has to have physical attributes with, you know, being able to not be disoriented by spinning around in a plane and stuff like that, and having vision and hearing and, you know, things like that, coordination. But they're looking for somebody that could think, that can multitask and not panic and freak out, and they test for this. Americans don't. But Americans have a lot more pilots than Israel does. A lot more. So, the American military is not like the Israeli military. I don't think the American military right now is anywhere near what it used to be. It deteriorated slightly during the Korean War. The North Koreans were selling narcotics cheaply to the military in South Korea. And I used to know a guy that was in military intelligence, I think, during the war, and he told me a lot of these soldiers, American soldiers, came home addicted to drugs. They had to detox them and get them off drugs. But it wasn't super widespread. During Vietnam, it was super widespread. While a lot of soldiers were taking pot, smoking pot, the American government was handing out dexedrine and benzedrine speed pills like candy to these guys so they could go on patrol and not fall asleep for 3 days. Then they would come back to the base and they would basically go to sleep for almost 24 hours. So they gave them a few days back at the base. They'd rejuvenate, eat, shower, clean up, sleep, wake up, eat, sleep, and then after the first day, they'd run around for probably 3 days or 4 days in the base, and they would, you know, clean their clothes, listen to briefings, hang out, write letters, watch a movie, listen to the radio, stuff like that. And then they would do it again. But a lot of the guys that were there were also taking hard drugs. Getting your hands on morphine injections was not hard in Vietnam. And they were able to buy hard drugs, you know, in the towns they would go to on leave. A friend of mine was a medic during the war, and he told me what he did on his time off is he'd go into the town there and go to one of the bars, and he had access to morphine. He would inject himself with morphine and drink cognac, fall asleep at the bar, wake up, drink more, you know, stuff like that. And the bars knew what was going on, and they didn't care. They were catering to people like this. He hated it there so much. They had outposts in Vietnam where they would have, I guess, 50, 80 guys. They had some bunkers that were partially underground, and they had sandbags piled around them. They didn't have to worry about, you know, much more than artillery or mortars. And they would stay in there, and they would put various mines and claymores around the base. They would clear the shrubbery, have multi-layers of barbed wire, and lookout towers. And they would be on alert for being invaded by the enemy, and they also would go out on frequent patrols. And they used to have guys that were like Green Berets or SEALs or whatever that were snipers. And they used to say at nighttime they would see these guys just go off the base and, you know, slink away into the jungle, and they would come back in the morning. And they were using night optics to kill the enemy with sniping. The enemy was afraid of the special forces, the Green Berets, the Navy SEALs, the Recon Marines. Scared them. They didn't like them. Because they were trained to operate in the jungle probably better than they could. And they had better weapons. So America was deteriorating the military back in Vietnam. At these bases, the helicopters would frequently, every day or every other day, bring supplies to the troops. They would bring them, I heard this from people, steaks, frozen steaks. They had barbecue grills with charcoal, right? They had hamburger steaks, hot dogs. Oh, they probably gave them frozen vegetables and stuff too. They had snacks they'd bring in, and they used to bring them cases of cold beer. cases. So these guys would be sitting around, it's the heat, you know, you're talking 95, 110 degrees or something. They'd be sitting there drinking beers during the day or the night, and you know, doing their jobs. They'd have their shirt off and they would be guzzling beer during the day, because when you're out in the heat sweating, you generally don't feel the effects of the alcohol that much. And that was another deterioration of them. They fell apart. A lot of them went crazy. You know. Today, the American military is, to a large extent, people that, oh, they're going to tell you they're patriots, and some are. And some people that go into the Navy SEALs and become Marines are college graduates, and they're bright people. That's not many, maybe 10%. And they just want to do it because it's a kick, you know, like going lion hunting or something. You know, it's a thrill for them. These are people that have, you know, a death wish. You know, you see videos of people on YouTube driving motorcycles running from the cops. They think it's funny to film this. And they go 140 miles an hour. Some go 180. And, you know, that's a death wish. Why would you want to go on a populated highway being chased by cops at a speed like that? Why would you ever want to do that? There's no return or reward. It's just your stupidity. Yet it's profound. You can go look at the videos. There's tons of them up there. So, you know, you get some of that. But the American military today is heavily people that just didn't have a chance. You know, they get out of high school, which is pretty much required. And whereas during Vietnam, I think you needed an 8th grade education. So they get out of high school. And what are they going to do? Make $8 an hour? You know, would you like fries without syrup? So they go to the military, and the military promises them a lot of things. Training, they could become a medical technician, a paramedic, they could become a X-ray operator, they could become a pharmacist mate, they'll even send them to college if they like them enough. And when they send them to college, they'll pay their living expenses in an apartment someplace, right? They'll give them spending money, food money, utility money, and pay their salary while they go to college. And they have to agree to continue working for the military for a number of years after they get out of college. But, you know, you go in at 18 years old, you're going to get out at 38, or maybe you'll get out at 40, 42, and you have a lot of experience in a college education and a pension, which you never would have had without it. So people go in it for the wrong reasons. People in World War II that joined the military after Pearl Harbor went in it to protect and defend America and revenge the enemies on America. People that go into America, in the military in America today, don't go in for that reason. Okay? So it's not a good military. It just isn't. They're in it for the wrong reasons. What can the military do for me, whereas in World War II, is what can I do to help my country? Yeah, there could be a few people in the military, 10, 15% that think that way, but the majority of them, got nothing going for them. So they join the Navy, they wind up on a ship, and they work as a cook. And the Navy teaches them how to mass produce meals, and that's a transferable skill. When you get out, the chain restaurants will hire you. Because you're used to, like a buffet restaurant or something like that, because you're used to churning out the food. Hotels that run buffets, big hotels like, say, Disney World, where they got 500-600 rooms and they have buffets in the morning and the evening or whatever, they'll hire people like this, hands down. They'll pay them okay. So that's what you kind of see. So what happens when the American military gets into the crunch is going to be very interesting. The American military was nowhere near this bad, 30-something years ago when they attacked Iraq. But they had a hard time. And I met people that were in that war, and they told me, one guy was a retired tank driver, and he told me that they told us it was going to be easy. He said, when we got over there, we realized that Iraq's crack troops were not easy. They were tough cookies. And America took a lot of casualties, and guys got killed and stuff like that. But yeah, they won. In Afghanistan, they didn't ever really win. They evacuated, From World War II to the invasion of Iraq, they had no victories. Vietnam was no victory. They had a victory in Iraq. Since then, I can't think of any victories. And that's a long time. That's like 34 years. Okay. So the warships coming by Lebanon are supposed to be to evacuate Americans in Lebanon, probably dual nationals, and maybe get involved in some combat activities. Do I think Hezbollah will fire at these American ships? Yes. Because there'll be a threat to Hezbollah. And Hezbollah will fire sophisticated anti-ship missiles at them, and they may hit them. Now, does the American administration and the Pentagon know this? Yes. Why didn't they send 25 warships over there to make an incredibly substantial show of force to try to stop Lebanon from firing missiles at the warships? 2 warships is nothing. Iran is going to conduct the control decisions with Hezbollah in Lebanon, and they'll say, well, the Americans are afraid. They're just making a meek show of force. Sink their ships. So remember, at the beginning of the war, America brought 25, 30, 40 warships into the region and did nothing, just went home. So Iran, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas are very little impressed by this. If they hit an American ship, and they likely will, the Houthis are doing pretty good with this, probably the same missiles that Lebanon got from Iran, and kill soldiers and sink a ship or damage it severely, America's going to be in the war. This is what Biden's looking for right now. He has a chance to become a war hero as president. The Hezbollah hits an American warship. Now they've declared war on America. And they're not a legitimate government. So America just paints Hezbollah out to be the bad guys. and says we're going to get rid of them. But since Hezbollah is a puppet of Iran, now they can say we're going to get rid of Iran too. The Houthis attack civilian ships, military ships. Now, Lebanon is doing it, we got to stop this. And an attack on Iran goes to front burner. But the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Association, whatever it is now saying that Iran has increased their centrifuge capacity by 300%. And within less than 30 days, they'll have enough material to make, and they're saying, between 3 and 5 nuclear bombs. I don't believe any of this, but the world does. So, Iran is now set up some of its nuclear facilities to make the, uranium or the nuclear material at 60%, where Russia claims to make it at 90%, but 60% is enough. So when the IAEA says it, it has to be true, right? Sure, people believe that. So now you have a scenario, the Hezbollah in Lebanon attacking American ships, declaring war. They're a puppet state of Iran. Iran is declaring war. They have nuclear bombs, they will in a couple of weeks. And they're capable of attacking America with long-range missiles and destroying Washington, D.C., New York, Miami, who knows what, right? And killing 18 million Americans or whatever they come up with, right? So now Biden's a hero saving the world from Iran and all of this. Now, what's really behind this is, and this could help Biden get reelected, and what's really behind this is October 7th was set up as an excuse to get Israel mad, to hit Hamas, knowing the proxies would enter into it, knowing Iran would enter into it, and it's a way for America to justify getting rid of Iran. Why? What Iran is trying to do is what it did to Saudi Arabia. It convinced Saudi Arabia to no longer accept the US dollar or the euro for oil. Which Saudi Arabia has done very recently. So now, and Saudi Arabia is like the top oil seller, it's hurting the American dollar. And if America doesn't show strength, other countries are going to go over to Iran out of fear. Who? Oman, who can't defend itself. UAE, who can't defend itself. Bahrain, who already went to Iran to reopen the diplomatic relations with them. Qatar and Kuwait, and Jordan will eventually have to fall in line. So now they have a massive amount of countries that are going to not accept the US dollar or the euro for oil, and they could start breaking the back of the West economically. The next thing they would do is start telling the countries to reduce the amount of oil they produce, go down by 10%, next month 10%, 10%. And eventually oil prices will double and triple. And they'll break the backs. And America knows that. And they know if they're broken economically, civil war is a possibility, stock market collapses, not crashes, collapses, and all this kind of stuff. So they're afraid of that. If a lot of countries didn't want to take the US dollar anymore, and America had the dollar was priced on a realistic level, not the way they do it today, it would be down by, at least 50, 70% people will go broke in America. Plus, if they lose the Middle East, Europe and America are finished because they'll choke them with the oil. And Russia and China want to see this happen. Turkey has since put troops into Syria. Last day or 2 or 3. They're not there to kill the Kurds this time. I don't see any of that. I think they're there to help Lebanon. Turkey figures if Israel fires on Turkish troops, it gives him a provocation to take warships and planes and whatever he's got to attack Israel. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to go through with it, but he does have troops already in Syria, which means they can approach Lebanon and cross over. Now we have Russia stating they're going to enter the war if Israel invades Lebanon. But he didn't say how. So how do we analyze this? What does it mean? Well, it means, I would say invariably it'll start with sophisticated missiles, probably anti-aircraft. If Putin has any he could spare that work, I don't know. Anti-ship missiles. And eventually it would be surface-to-surface missiles, but it wouldn't start that way. So it would start with giving equipment to the Houthis, the Hezbollah, the Iran-backed militias in Iraq and Syria, and of course Iran. Israel pretty much has to take over the Golan Heights on the Syrian side to push the war in Lebanon successfully. The problem with that is Russia has about 300 military policemen stationed up on our border over there. So Israel will tell Putin, you better get your soldiers out of there or they could get killed, and Putin will say if any of them get killed, we'll attack Israel. And whether or not he means it, I don't know. And they have IRGC soldiers there too. Israel will more than likely attack the Golan Heights, irrespective of who's there or who's not there, and occupy it. What Israel's doing the war in Lebanon right now is attacking a lot of strategic targets inside Lebanon that Hezbollah uses, weapon depot, command control centers, intel centers, things like that, to make their smooth functioning as difficult as possible. Every day we've been attacking targets for months. Iraq said they were going to hit Israel from Iraq, and America declared, I believe America declared a no-fly zone over Iraq, but I heard it might specifically pertain to Iraq cargo planes. I don't know how America's going to stop Russia from bringing cargo planes into Syria where it has military bases, no idea. If Russia heats up with Israel, Israel will take out the Russian naval base in Latakia, Syria, and their air base near the naval base in Latakia, Syria. They'll take those bases out to mitigate any threats from Russia. So Russia may start by giving weapons to Hezbollah in Lebanon. And when that doesn't work, they may send soldiers to Lebanon. It wouldn't be that way. What they would do is they would dispatch probably 12 warships a reasonably decent sized amount of warships off the coast of Lebanon to protect it. Would America come and engage the warships? I don't know. First, I have to see Putin send 12 warships over there. He's got his hands full, in the Baltic, the Black Sea. He's helping China. He's got problems. Would he take a chance and do it? I don't know. He might. Don't know how he's going to play it. It's very likely, with Bible prophecy, for him to actually attack Israel. He could do it. I'm building up to some Bible prophecy stuff here. Let me check the chat and see if I'm getting questions or prayer requests or things like that. I'm a believer in the Old Testament and the New Testament. Okay, I didn't have much. So what we might have is Iran attacking Israel, Iran sending troops to Lebanon, Iran's proxies sending troops to Lebanon, and Russia helping Lebanon. And if Russia is helping by sending a fleet over there, China might send a small amount of warships over there too. 10 or 12. To scare America. So they're going to send a message to America, just back down. Because what we're doing here is basically taking over the Middle East through Iran. And don't play games with us. The more help Russia gives to Lebanon and Iran, the more problems it has in Ukraine. So America may encourage attack on Iran to get Russia to deploy more assets to Iran. And they're all going to be just air attacks, planes and missiles and rockets and maybe helicopters. And then if Russia gets weakened over there, then NATO moves on Ukraine. Belarus has just moved a substantial number of short-range missiles to their border with Poland. Belarus is a disposable asset puppet state of Russia. Putin said he was going to destroy the railroads, speaking, I believe, of Poland using the railroad to send weapons into Ukraine but he hasn't done it. Putin may be scared to help Iran. He's afraid to get involved because he could weaken his position in Ukraine and Russia. So Putin may not do anything. He'll give away some weapons, but that's for sure, but that might be it. And the same with China. Or they may get into the fight. Now we're going to switch to talk about Bible prophecy and how we can glean from that a lot of information. And I'll be back in a minute. Quick break. Well, what we need to do is we'll start, let me just check my notes, and then we'll start with Zechariah 12 and start putting things. Oh, there's a big thing that happened. I don't know if it got legs or what, but the Lord wanted me to talk about it. One of the politicians in Lebanon in their parliament came out with a statement that he is suggesting the division of Lebanon into two countries. So what they are thinking is Hezbollah is mostly concentrated in the south, make another country like, North Lebanon, South Lebanon, like Cyprus is or something, right? And keep Hezbollah down in the south, and they can put their own military on this border they would create and scream for help from other countries, which they probably would get. Because Lebanon is a legitimate country with a legitimate government, but Hezbollah is not a legitimate country, nor a legitimate government, so the only thing that Hezbollah can go scream for help for is to go to like Iran, Russia, and things like that. If Hezbollah agrees to listen to Israel and goes back to the Litani River 17 or 18 miles from the border, what happens is Iran cuts it off from any further military aid, personnel, equipment, weapons, or money. And they know that. Then they're facing Israel wiping them out with no help coming, and Israel taking them and trying them for war crimes like Nasrallah and stuff like that, and locking them up for 50 years or hanging them or whatever. So Hezbollah is not going to do that by just not going to say, okay, we give in. Never. Iran has already told Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, to come with his family and live in Iran. So they're telling him, oh, we'll protect you, because they don't want him to lay his life down. They don't want him getting caught because of the intel and propaganda value. Now, if he doesn't go to Iran, like I told you before, the Iranians may kill him and blame it on the Israelis because it's too dangerous to leave him floating around there. Will this Lebanon division thing come to pass? I'm not sure. I don't know. And if they did it, where would they do it? I don't know. And I don't know what countries would come to help them. I really don't know. I don't know. It could be a ploy to stop Hezbollah from being destroyed, because they could then run up to the northern Lebanon and hide there and leave just a few soldiers at the border to make it look good. Who knows? So this is something that could happen. But I'd say, let's see what happens. It could develop. Let's see. I don't know. Iran would take action against Lebanon if this ever happened. Not Hezbollah, the Lebanese proper government. I'm just deleting my notes that I covered already. Iran is saying they're going to obliterate Israel, destroy us, put an end to us and all that. That's the pride before the fall. So we haven't really been seeing a big naval buildup in the Middle East by America. And again, likely reason for this is that the anti-ship missiles have been successful in hitting American ships, merchant marine ships, and so forth. So, but they're going to have to do it. Okay, Zechariah 12 is the next war. It is Jacob's trouble, okay? Gog and Magog, there's a temple. When you read Gog and Magog, the church deceives you. It's just Ezekiel 38:39. It absolutely is not, okay? It's the great day of the Lord as a result of the falling away. It is the whole book of Joel deals with this. There's a temple there. We don't have a temple now. in Ezekiel 38:39, Israel's living at peace without walls and bars, with cattle and gold and silver. They come to take a great spoil. That's not the Israel today. It's a joke. Okay? So that's not for now. It's for many decades down the road. And the most important thing is you need to look at Ezekiel chapters 8 to 11. It's got the abomination of desolation. It's called the what is it called? I'll show you. There's similar words, but give me a chance, I'll get there. It's in Ezekiel 8. Church never teaches this, but it's dead on, the great day of the Lord, okay? We'll jump into verse 2. Then I beheld, and lo, a likeness like the appearance of fire, from the appearance of his loins, even downward fire, and from his loins even upward, as the appearance of a brightness of the color amber. And he put forth the form of a hand, and took me by a lock of my head, and the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and the heaven, and brought me in the visions, so it's a vision of God, to Jerusalem, to the door of the inner gate that looketh towards the north, where was the seat of the image of jealousy. It's called an image of jealousy. All right? Now, this is not the talking statue. Okay? It's an image, and it's set up in the northern gate. There's an inner courtyard, which contains the actual temple and the steps that go in the temple and the altar. And then in the north, there's a connector, which probably looks more like a little tunnel or something, that goes from the inner gate to the outer gate, the outer courtyard, inner courtyard to the outer courtyard. Okay? And in this gate area is the image of jealousy, because God's jealous and provokes the jealousy. The word for jealousy in Hebrew is kanad, and it means like envy, zealous, jealous. But what does Strong put it in? A bad sense, jealous or envious. Okay. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel was there, according to the vision I saw in the plain. Well, obviously all this is absent right now. Then said he unto me, Son of man, lift up thine eyes now the way towards the north. I lifted up my eyes the way towards the north, and behold, northward at the gate of the altar, this image of jealousy in the entry. So the gate between the inner and outer courtyard by the entry was, does it say entry? No, just, yeah, in the entry. So it's not even in the temple, let alone the holiest of holies, is this image of jealousy. He said furthermore unto me, Son of man, seest thou what they do? Even the great abominations, there's your abomination word, the great abominations that the house of Israel committeth here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary, from my temple. But turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations. And he shows them them. So this whole thing is designed to get the glory of God of Israel, which is the angel that was with the children of Israel in the wilderness with Moses and Aaron. It's Michael. And it's an angel that God put his name in, Jehovah. It's in Exodus 20, verse 23, I believe. I could check that. It might be 23. Let's check. But you need to know this. No, It's, I believe, 23 verse 20. We'll get there. I had it crossed. So it's Exodus 23 verse 20. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. And they like to teach that's Yeshua, but I don't think it's Yeshua at all. It's because the glory of God of Israel shows up later on in temples. And the glory of God in Revelation 21 is seated next to Yeshua in New Jerusalem. So there's the two of them, they're separate. Not the same. So, now we'll go into Ezekiel 9. We did 8. I didn't do the whole thing. I don't want to spend the whole morning there. Let's go into 9. Start at 1, I guess. Now, the church will never teach you this, because all their junk falls apart if they teach it to you. He cried also in my ears with a loud voice, saying, cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, even every man with his destroyer weapons in his hand. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lieth towards the north. That's where the image of jealousy is set up, towards the north, and every man a slaughter weapon in his hand. And one man among them was clothed with linen, with a writer's inkhorn by his side. And they went in and stood beside the brazen altar. That would make them in the inner courtyard, kind of south east of the temple steps. And glory of the God of Israel, Elohim Israel, was gone up from the cherub, whereupon he was to the threshold of the house. So this is getting him to leave the temple. And he called to them, they called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And Jehovah said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst of it. And to the others he said in my hearing, go you after him through the city and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have you pity. Slay utterly the old and the young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. So when this happens, which is decades down the road, as we approach the close of the second 70 on Israel from Daniel 9:24, which says there's 2 70s, one was the Babylonian captivity. No Hebrew manuscript says 7 weeks. That's ridiculous. That's a joke. They're just doing it on purpose to play with you. So it's 2 70s. The second 70 is going to start when Yeshua appears in the clouds, and it will close, I believe, at the end of the great falling away, the great day of the Lord. And then the tribulation will shortly pursue on the nations. To the Jew first, then the Greek, the good and the bad. Giving a lot of information out here. Okay. So the people that are upset over the injustices that those that fell away in Israel are doing around the temple in Jerusalem get a mark placed in their forehead and nothing happens to them, but the rest get killed. And that's why when you're in Zechariah 14, which is announced as the great day of the Lord, you see that the women get raped, the houses get ravished, looted and pillaged, and half of Jerusalem goes into captivity and the rest remain there. So there's this big invasion attack in Jerusalem, which is not indicated at all in Zechariah 12. And half of them go into captivity, and then the other half just stay there. And then after this is over, the glory of God of Israel is, while this is going on, over the Mount of Olives. When it's finished, his feet come down on the Mount of Olives, not Yeshua, the glory of God of Israel, and the mountain opens up, the people run through it, and it's basically the end of the thing. Okay? So, that's it. The whole big attack from the glory of God leaving the temple and so forth is 45 days. When you read Daniel, I think it's 12. It's 45 days. That's it. A time and times and a half a time means captivity. Egypt, first time. Babylon, second time. Rome, 70 AD, third time. Half a time, Zechariah 14. Never been fulfilled yet. Okay? And then Daniel tells us in Daniel 7:25 and in Daniel 12 that when the half a time is finished, all the bad stuff that ever happens to Israel is over. I'm going to read it. Whoops. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, like move the Shabbat to Sunday. And they shall be given into his hand until a time, times, and the dividing of time. After that, we're not given into the hand of the demons. The second 70 is over. And we see this again in Daniel 12. Verse 5, Daniel 12:5. And I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood another two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, who do you know walks on water but Yeshua? How long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters, this is Yeshua, of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swore by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times, and a half, and when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. See, that's the end of it all. And that'll be 70 years from the time Yeshua appears in the clouds, which will begin it. And it's not hard to discern this. We just go quickly into Daniel 9:24. And it says 70, Shavim in Hebrew, are determined upon thy people. That's Israel, not the church. So it's two 70s. The first one was Babylon. The second 70 is identical because it says 70, so it's also 70 years. 70 years. And upon the holy city Jerusalem to finish the transgression, that's the great falling away, to make an end of sins, ditto, to make reconciliation for lawlessness, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision, that's Daniel's vision, and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy, which is the next temple. It says, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, that means the anointed. Now, they have not done this yet. When have you ever heard of Jerusalem being built up unto Yeshua? But it says the anointed, the prince. Now, this is not Yeshua. It actually means the anointed prince in the next temple. From the line of David, because David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne. So it says this will be 7 weeks. They screw the timing up. They don't know what they're doing in 62 weeks. The street shall be built again and the wall, even in troublous times. Okay, what's the word troublous? Like distress, let's see. Trouble, probably at, towards the end when they start doing the bad things to in the temple, I guess. Okay. And there you have it. And if you don't know this stuff, you're never going to understand prophecy like the church teachers. They can only fool the uninitiated. They can't fool the people that they can't fool the people. Okay? That are really with the Holy Spirit, it won't work. If it says the scripture, for deceive the very elect, if it were possible, it won't be possible. It's not possible now. Okie dokie. So let me quickly go into the chat and we'll resume. Okay. So we'll go into Zechariah and start setting the stage. Zechariah 12, verse 1. The burden of the word of the Lord for Israel, saith Jehovah, which stretcheth forth the heavens, layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. Quickly. The tip of my finger is Jerusalem. To surround Jerusalem, the West Bank is on the top, the bottom, and over here on 3 sides. So now there's 2.5 to 4 million Arabs living in the West Bank, and they're rising up against Israeli defense forces all the time with weapons. There's something happens to surround Jerusalem. I think they need to get the West Bank under their control. So they may push in from Jordan, maybe terrorists from Jordan, maybe Iran, I don't know. And they surround. So that's how you could surround Jerusalem. Or you lay siege on it. Now the word for siege is matsur, not matzah, matsur. It has the connotation of an entrenchment, an enclosure. Let's see how Strong's puts it in. Hemming in. Besiegers. Or a siege. Okay, siege is usually a surrounding, and they'll attack from surrounding it. That's against Judah and against Jerusalem. And in that day, will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people, all that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people in the earth, well, it says all the heathen in the land, could mean the earth, be gathered together against it. Okay. So, can this be Russia getting involved here? Yeah. Can you have a siege against Judah from the water? Sure. From the Mediterranean? Absolutely. What could they be trying to do? Get rid of Israel, get Israel to stop. See, a siege is not exactly an invasion. They surround it, the country, the city, the county, whatever, then they shoot weapons at it. It's not exactly an invasion. It's a surrounding which usually is a prequel to an invasion. We're already in the siege in part. Gaza in the south, Lebanon in the north, the Houthis sort of kind of in the south, Jordan, not really. Syria, yeah, that's on the east, and Iraq, not with our border, but kind of on the east, and Turkey kind of on the north, you know. So the siege is already partially there. Now, let me continue reading this and show you that the IDF is missing. In that day, saith Jehovah, I will smite every horse with astonishment, and his rider with madness, and I will open mine eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness, and the judges of Judah, which is the two witnesses, the two prophets, shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, strength, Jehovah of armies. All right. In that day will I make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall burn up all the people round about, on the right hand and on the left, and Jerusalem shall be inhabited, shall remain still in her own place, even in Jerusalem. So the two witnesses are there, and they burn the enemies up. Where's the military? I don't see it. Do you? I don't see it here. Let's keep going. The Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. in that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as Elohim, as the angel of the Lord before him. So the old feeble people become like David, who killed Goliath, killed the bear, killed the lion, a great warrior. That's the old feeble people, because they're changed. They have everlasting life, as I'm going to show you, from seeing Yeshua in the clouds. And then he says the house of David is going to be like the angel of the Lord, which is Michael, the glory God of Israel. He killed 150,000 in one day. This is redemption. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the heathen that come against Jerusalem. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplication. So he pours the spirit out on them. Now they're saved. And they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. And then you read all the families of Israel are mourning, because they made fun of Yeshua and blasphemed him all these years, and they feel miserable about it. Okay, so they look upon Yeshua. That's seeing the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds. But first the Spirit is poured out on them, so now they're believers. And now this allows them to fulfill the scripture found in John 6:40. And you'll believe it or you won't. For me, it's the word of God. I'll believe it. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. So everyone that's a believer and sees Yeshua So everyone that sees Yeshua that's a believer has everlasting life. But the IDF's not here. Where do we see this? Again, in Malachi 4. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, and all that do wickedly, shall be stubble, and the day cometh that will burn them up, saith Jehovah of armies, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. Well, this sounds like the bad ones in Israel are getting destroyed, which Ezekiel 34 says they will. The government, the rabbis, Messianic congregation leaders, all the Satan bots, the bad ones. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son, that's S-U-N, Shemesh, is the word in Hebrew, of righteousness, arise with healing in his extremities, and you shall go forth and frolic about like calves of the stall. And this is the eternal life, the everlasting life, not eternal life, everlasting, which you could still die, but you live for a long time, like they did before the flood, very long time. Okay. And you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith Jehovah of hosts. Now, it doesn't necessarily sound like the enemies, it sounds like the enemy within. Well, let's go to the previous verse and see what we can glean, which is all the chapter, Malachi 3. Behold, I will send you my Malach, that's a messenger, that's Elijah. The way he shall prepare the way before me. Well, John the Baptist had the spirit of Elijah. When they asked him if he was Elijah, he said no. But he was preparing the way before Yeshua. Okay? prepare the way before me, and the Adonai, Lord, whom you seek, shall suddenly come to his temple. Suddenly. Even the messenger of the covenant, whom you delight in, behold, he shall come, saith Jehovah of armies. I believe the messenger, the Malachi, is not the glory of God of Israel. It's back to Elijah again. But who may abide the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire and like a fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Now I want to read very quickly, so you don't forget, a scripture in Zechariah 13, verse 8 and 9. And you can see it sounds pretty close. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith Jehovah, 2 parts, 2/3, therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. And they shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah Elohim. So we go back to Malachi 3. But who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's soap, a fuller's soap. Oh, a refiner's fire and like a fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah and purify them and so forth. So who may stand in the day when he starts working openly? I think he gets rid of the bad ones. They probably come around and they see him start working openly and they want to kill him. What do you think they're going to want to do? Welcome him? It's the Son of God. They're not going to, like Yeshua is, but he's not Yeshua. So we've covered that before. You got to read Zechariah 4:14, which describes the candlesticks and the olive trees, which is the 2 witnesses. So what it says in the last verse, I can't go through all the verses because of time constraints, will be here forever. Then said he, these are the 2 anointed ones. It does not say that. What it says in the Hebrew is these are the Shnaim B'nai Yetzar. 2 B'nai is sons, plural, 2 sons. Yitzhar is the clarified oil, the olive oil, which is used for anointing, and it means anointed. So these are the 2 anointed sons that stand by the Lord Adonai of the whole earth. Okay, those are your 2 witnesses. Yeshua went up to heaven after he died. Yeshua said nobody comes down to earth, but nobody goes up to heaven but those that came down from heaven. The 2 witnesses go up to heaven very much the same way the way Yeshua did from death. There you have it. So I don't think Elijah's going to be there training the Levites. And at the same time, we got missiles and rockets coming in and soldiers surrounding us and getting ready to attack us and all of this stuff. I don't see it. Although it could match the way Elijah and Apostle John, the other witness, destroy them by burning them up. But I think that the Levites were not yet trained, and Elijah's not going to sit there and tell them you have to stand with your left foot 9 inches from your right foot. Both feet have to be facing forward. You lean at an 18-degree angle, and you render the animal dead by cutting its carotid. You know, this isn't what he's going to be teaching them. He's going to be teaching them how they live their lifestyle for the heavier things of the Lord. How they treat each other, the widows, the orphans, the strangers. You know, this type of thing, fairness, equal weights and measures, you know, all of these things, that's what they're going to be learning. And they're also going to have to learn who Yeshua is, who the Holy Spirit is. You know, they'll have to receive the baptism in water and the Holy Spirit, you know, many things. It'll cover things with the animals and the altar, but it's not going to dwell on that. That's not going to be the main emphasis. If the Levites are not walking correctly, their offerings are going to be an abomination to the Lord. They got to be walking right, then it'll work. And then the blessings of the law are on Israel, thus the enemies just get burned up in one fell swoop. So I believe that that Elijah will be operating before this battle, which doesn't leave us a lot of time to start seeing Elijah working in the open. And I don't have any difficulty believing the rabbis will try to get rid of him, kill him. I mean, look what they did to Yeshua, their brother. They killed him. Why wouldn't they kill him? They would, if they could. Making war against Elijah and Apostle John on a 10 scale, 10 being the most idiotic thing you could do, is, you know, a 9, you know, it's pretty stupid. But they'll do it. Is the glory of God of Israel there at that time? We don't read of him there at that time. I don't think so. Because he's not in the fight that we read of. So I don't think so. He probably comes right after. Now, when we go to Jeremiah 30, and we read of the birth pangs, Jeremiah 30 verse 4, and these are the words that Jehovah spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For thus saith Jehovah, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear. Trembling. Where did we read about trembling? Zechariah 12:2. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. Okay? So maybe we're setting the time clock here, or prophetically lining things up. So we're in Jeremiah 30. And these are the words that Jehovah spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For thus saith Jehovah, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Trembling is you're so scared you're shaking. Ask you now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. So they're clutching their guts, they're so scared. And their faces turn pale, the blood's probably rushing to their abdomen. So we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. So the Israelites are scared. Now let's go back to Zechariah 12. In that day, says the Lord, in verse 2 it says, behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling. And then it says, unto all. But when we read the translation, it just says all. Okay? And it's not a cup of trembling, it's a basin, it's a large container. It's an allegory, you know. And then it says, all people, and then it says, Sabib, roundabout is good enough translation, roundabout. So when you get rid of the churchianity twisting the scriptures, it's saying he makes Jerusalem a basin of trembling. All the people round about when they are in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. So I think he's referencing the Israelites are that scared. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone, for all the people, all that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. They're going to get cut up. You know, they're dead, lacerated, sliced and diced. Okay? Then we'll go back into Jeremiah 30 and advance it further. So we see the people so scared that their hands are clutching their guts, their loins. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. So that's why when you're hearing all these terrorist groups from Iraq and Syria and the Houthis, and, the Hezbollah and Iran and Russia and this and that, Turkey and Pakistan and Afghanistan, Taliban are all coming to help Lebanon. They probably are. God's inviting them to their destruction. Although they do it on their own. Alas, for that day is great, so that there is none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Well, they get a very bad scare. And I don't see the IDF here. Now, is it possible the IDF is here and just greatly outnumbered? Yeah, it could be. I don't see the government of Israel. What I see is the two judges, the two prophets, the two witnesses, Elijah and Apostle John, saving the day. But they were already the judges of Israel. So it appears they've been working for a little while. I think the government is gone, as per Ezekiel 34. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith Jehovah of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. The internal yoke of the Israeli government that serves the unclean spirits is gone. But they shall serve Jehovah Elohim, and David HaMelech, whom I will raise up unto them. It's not a resurrection of David. The anointed prince dies. We read that in Daniel 9:24 to 27. And David already died, and it's elected unto man to die only once. So it's from the line of David. Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Yaakov, saith Jehovah. Neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar. That's the captivity. And thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Yaakov shall return, that's all the tribes, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee. Okay, now the word for save is Yasha, which is the root word of Yeshua. It's salvation. So it'd be more like, for I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to salvation thee. Yeah, sign of the Son of Man in the clouds with everlasting life. Though I make a full end of all nations, whither I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. So, destroying all the nations he scattered us into is everything in Europe, a lot of the Middle East, all of North, South, and Central America, parts of Asia. It's huge, parts of Africa. I figure 100, 125 countries are going to be destroyed. Now, I don't think all the people are going to get killed, but probably a lot of them. And the governments are gone, and the country's not livable. And I suppose they have to go into captivity. Many will come to Israel and bring the Israelites with them as an offering unto the Lord, and stay on as our servants / slaves. That's in the scriptures, Isaiah 60 to 66. Chapters, those are the chapters. So that's what's going to happen, and rather soon. For thus saith Jehovah, thy bruise is incurable, thy wound is grievous. There is none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound. Thou hast no healing medicine. All thy lovers have forgotten thee. They seek thee not, for I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thy lawlessness, because thy sins were increased. Why criest thou for thine affliction? Thy sorrow is incurable for the multitude of thy lawlessness, because thy sins were increased. I have done these things unto thee. Therefore all they that devour thee, burn thee up, devour, shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them shall go forth into captivity, because the nations are destroyed, and they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. So, what's the future of Iran and Russia and Lebanon and Gaza and Iraq and Syria and all the others? Is goodbye. For I will restore health unto thee. That's the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man when we get the everlasting life. It means life for an indeterminate period of time. It's not immortality. And I will heal thee of thy wounds, saith Jehovah, because, this is Hosea 6:1 and 2, because they called thee an outcast, saying, this is Zion whom no man seeketh after. Thus saith Jehovah, behold, I will bring again the captivity of Yaakov's tents. It means they come back to Israel, and have mercy on his dwelling places. And the city shall be builded upon her own heap. Jerusalem stays there. And the palace shall remain after the manner thereof. I guess that means the temple. Or it could be it would be the temple. And out of them shall proceed thanksgiving, all that, and the voice of them that make merry, and I will multiply them. Multiply them means buy a 40-foot trailer full of diapers, maybe, right? and be fruitful and multiply. And they shall not be few. I will also glorify them, and the word for glorify is it could mean be rich, be glorified, stuff like that. Multiply them, they shall not be few. I will also glorify them, and they shall not be small. Small means insignificant here. Their children also shall be as aforetime, and their congregations shall be established before me. And I will punish all that oppress them, and their nobles shall be of themselves. The nobles shall be of themselves. That means the two witnesses will come from within Israel, obviously. And their governors shall proceed from the midst of them. Again, the two witnesses would be from within Israel, the Israelites that are here. Of course, it says midst of them, so. And I will cause him to draw near, and he shall approach unto me. To who is this that is engaged his heart to approach unto me, saith the Lord? All the two witnesses are one of them. And you shall be my people, and I will be your God. Behold, the whirlwind of the Lord goeth forth with fury, a continuing whirlwind that shall fall with pain upon the head of the wicked. The fierce anger of the Lord shall not return till he had done it, and until he have performed the intents of his heart. In the latter days you shall consider it. Well, how many hurricanes and storms are they picking up now? There's several. There's several now. I tell you the truth, when Apostle John and Elijah are together working, Jehovah's going to be, I don't know the word, celebratory, celebrating. He's going to be very happy. Along with the whole host of heaven, they're going to be so happy because the end of these jackasses and all their evil is coming to an end. And I mean, a jackass is a donkey, and they're pretty good animals. When you study them, I've been studying them. I got to study camels a little more too. You might want to consider studying camels and donkeys too. Seriously. I don't mean it as a joke, you're going to have them. It's not a joke. I mean, there's no commitment that you have to, thou shalt not enter the gates of heaven unless you know camels and donkeys. It's not a scripture. There's no commandment to do that, but you might want to. But there's going to be, I'm rather certain, a big rejoicing in heaven when the two get together and start kicking it into gear. Because they're all waiting. Yeshua's waiting, Jehovah's waiting, the angels are waiting. They can't wait to see this start. They can't wait. And you'll be elated because you know how close it is. And that could be tomorrow, it could be this afternoon. Oh yeah. Really. Be anything. So I think the government goes, but in Malachi 4 we see them going, and it may be at the same time as the people laying siege to us go, because there's a scripture that talks about judgment. It could be the same time, something like that, but they're going to be gone probably before. I have to get more, pray the Lord gives it to me more precisely, but they're going to be gone. Now, is it possible that the IDF is just outnumbered 16,000 to 1 from the siege and that people freak out? Yeah, it could be. But I don't see the presence of this democracy anymore, and I don't see the military anymore. And we do know that people are going to get a heck of a scare just before they get saved. And then what? What happens when they get saved? They shall know I am Jehovah, not me, my father. I am Jehovah. That's what's going to happen. That's what will happen. And boy, what a day that'll be, huh? They'll be doing the, Sammy Davis jump up in the air and click your heels. They'll have that kind of body they'll frolic about like a calf out of the stall. You think you won't be able to jump up in the air and click your heels? You will. I'll bet you do. I keep thinking, will we be able to just jump and clear a 6-foot fence without touching it? Probably, I don't know. Are we going to become like Samson? I keep thinking that. I don't know why. He was a tough hombre, wasn't he? We'll be tough hombre. We're going to kill him. We're going to kill the enemies with sling stones. The feeble shall be like David. What did David do with the sling stone? He killed that 9-foot tall sack of you-know-what, Goliath. With a nice little smooth stone, probably strips of leather and a little pouch made out of leather. I understand you can use the survivalist parachute cord, they call it, or whatever, the ropes they use, quite well to make slingshots. So, the feeble shall be like David. David killed a Goliath. They will fight with sling stones. You see how it all fits together? It fits so good. So good. So real soon you're going to have everlasting life. You'll be on your exodus to the Holy Land. You may have to stop in the wilderness, enter into the bond of the covenant. I'm sure there'll be a lot of baptizing in the wilderness, huh? A lot of baptizing, how about that? And enter into the bond of the covenant, which requires you to be baptized in water by immersion and baptized in the Holy Spirit. And the glory guard of Israel might be there with the tabernacle, I don't know. And the 2 witnesses may be there. I don't know who's going to be there. I don't think the 2 witnesses will be in the wilderness. The glory guard of Israel might be. I don't know. And then they'll come into Israel. We'll break falafel. Falafel is chickpea paste rolled into a ball like this, dropped into hot oil to be boiled. It gets browned on the outside. They take a pita bread, which is round, it has 2 sides, and they strip off the top like that, and then they fluff it apart. The 2 sides come apart. And they put the, usually it's 5 falafel balls inside the pita bread, and then they fill it with salad, French fried potatoes. Yeah, you heard that right. They really do it. Olives, fried eggplant, pickles, sauces, hummus, tahina, hot sauces, different things. You fluff up the falafel and then eat it, and it's a pretty tasty snack. The other way is they use shawarma, which is a pressed meat, comes in a big slab, it hangs on a cooker that keeps them warm. It's like turkey and chicken in there, and I think that's about it. And it's sliced off, and they do the same thing with the salad, the French fries, and all that in the pita. Generally, I just eat the falafel and the pita. You can buy shawarma meat in a bag, and just take a skillet, put a little grease in it, butter, olive oil, whatever, throw them in and spatula and fry it up. You don't have to really cook it, just gotta heat it up and then just eat the shawarma on a plate. And I prefer the falafel and the pita bread. I don't know what else I could tell you. I think I accomplished everything that I wanted to accomplish today. Let me take a look at the chat and see if I have any questions to be answered. Someone says, what and who does Isaiah 14 talk about? I think it talks about Satan going down into the pit after the so-called return of Yeshua. The return of Yeshua, not so-called. I think that's who you're talking about it. I think it's who you're talking about. Why will I not say hi? Okay? These people think they know everything, don't they? Feel free to do some tossed salad. Why don't I say hi? 2 John 1 verse 9. Whosoever transgresseth and abideth not in the doctrine of Christ hath not God. He that abideth in the doctrine of Christ, he hath both the Father and the Son. If there come any unto you, and bring not this doctrine, receive him not unto your house, neither bid him Godspeed. For he that biddeth him Godspeed is partaker of his deeds. Okay? So hi is giving them this greeting like Godspeed. And that's what this person is trying to do. Tossed salad, please. And they think they're so smart. Oh my gosh. Of course, the person will never give me any money. You know? All right. As they say in Yiddish, das is alles. That's all. All the people, well, I'm not going to bother with that. Okay, Yiddish is not Hebrew. When we have the everlasting life, we'll be talking Hebrew, the real Hebrew, not the modern Ben Yehuda junk they use in Israel now, the real Hebrew that was, you know, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Isaiah, that Hebrew, you know. Okay, so I'm Moshe, and please pray for me and my wife. Pray for our peace, safety, protection, joy. Pray for our health, mental, physical, and spiritual. Pray for our finances. Pray for our happiness and joy. Pray for our animals and pets, which are all rescues, to be happy, healthy, and whole. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for better videos. And pray for God to explain things to me about sequencing with the temple and training the Levites and Ezekiel 34 and the military and the government of Israel and all of that. We'll get it, I think. And pray, this is rather important, pray that our packages get to Israel soon, very quickly, because I don't know how much time is left to get packages. So pray that that happened. And that happens. And that's about it. So I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And remember, if you send me an email asking me to cover something in a Bible study, I'll try to do it. And also, you could send prayer requests in, but try to use the 2 initials for the person for their privacy. And a little over 2 hours. Okay, and I'm out. Thank you. Thank you for the offerings, guys.